On the back of your bulletin, you will find the Heidelberg Catechism questions. Okay. I'd like to ask you to respond with the answers as I pose those questions. Referring to the Apostles' Creed, how are these articles divided? Into three parts. The first is of God the Father and our creation. The second, of God the Son and our redemption. The third, of God the Holy Spirit and our sanctification. Since there is but one divine being, why do you speak of three persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit? Because God has so revealed himself in his word that these three distinct persons are the one true eternal God. The Articles of the Creed are divided into three sections. Okay? The first is of God the Father and our creation. Yes, it's true that all three persons of the Trinity were present at the creation. The Father said he spoke. The Spirit was over the face of the waters. And Hebrews tells us, as John, first chapter tells us, that Jesus was there, and it was through him that all of the things were created that were made. But what we have is something that we cannot understand. And that's part of what the Catechism is reflecting and part of what it's trying to do. I want to explain to you this much at least. That is, that we cannot understand the nature of God. We can only understand what he has told us about himself. And even that's hard. Okay? So we're looking at somebody that we can't figure out. It's not just a waste of time. It's blasphemy for us to say we're trying to figure God out. It's appropriate for us to say, I wonder what he'll do next. It's appropriate for us to say, if God is consistent, he will do this, if we understand what he's doing. And that's what we're being brought up short with in this question. The articles are divided in a way that's going to bring us to a place where we can say, okay, I can chop this into three pieces, I can understand that. But the next question is going to remind us that we really can't do this in three pieces. So we talk about God as the creator, the Father. He's the one whom Jesus says he has come to do the will of. Jesus, the Son, is concerned with our redemption. Well, so is the Father, because he sent the Son. But Jesus is the one who's going to pay the penalty. Jesus is the one who's going to live our life. Jesus is the one who's going to demonstrate what righteousness is, and he's the one who's going to sacrifice himself in our place. And because he's God, he's able to do that for as many as he wishes. He's not just able to substitute himself for one person. Jesus says, John chapter 14, that he's going to send his Spirit to us, and that his Spirit is going to be in us and work with us, and that he is not going to leave us alone. In 1 Corinthians 6, we read that the Holy Spirit dwells in us. Okay? And we'll look at some of those as we see the responsibilities that are there. So the Son purchases life, the Father creates life, the Son purchases life, the Holy Spirit gives life. That's the way the Catechism is built up and the way the Apostles' Creed was built up. Okay? If I turn to 1 Peter chapter 1 and to the second verse. Elect according to the foreknowledge of God the Father, and sanctification by the Spirit for the obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Christ. So there's where the Creed is picking up this three sections and what it's doing with them. The Bible does it. We need to do it, even if understanding it is beyond us. So let's go back to Deuteronomy for a minute, and chapter 6, and particularly verse 4. Since there is one divine being, why do you speak of three persons? Well, in chapter 6 of Deuteronomy, verse 4, Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our God, Yahweh is one. How can you be one and be three at the same time? Okay? When you figure it out, you will have either got to be as wise as God, or you'll be wrong. Okay? There's no way we can figure this out. It does not make sense in human terms. You might be schizophrenic, but that's not really three individuals. Multi-personality, I suppose, is the way they're referring to it in psychology today. You might be that, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about someone who has three distinct natures. You see it in Isaiah 61. The Spirit of Yahweh God is upon me, because Yahweh has anointed me to preach good tidings to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of prison to those who are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of Yahweh and the day of the vengeance of our God. God is one. He has come to do what he has chosen. Okay? He revealed himself in his word, three distinct persons, and he assigns to those persons certain actions. The Spirit of God is upon me. Well, who's talking? This is what Jesus quotes about himself. So the Spirit of the Father is upon me, Jesus says when he quotes this passage. So you have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit there at the same time. If I turned you to Matthew chapter 3, this is where John the Baptizer has baptized Jesus. Jesus came from Galilee to John at the Jordan to be baptized by him. John tried to prevent him, saying, "I need to be baptized by you, and you are coming to me?" But Jesus answered and said to him, "Permit it to be so now, for this is fitting for us to fulfill all righteousness." Then he allowed him. When he had been baptized, Jesus came up immediately from the water. Behold, the heavens were opened to him, and he, and most of your translations will say he in capital letters there, is probably not the translation. He, being the one who's reporting this, John the Baptist, saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting upon him. And a voice came from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And so John the Baptist is looking there and saying, "I was here. I baptized him." Now please, we won't get into baptism today, but what he's doing is he's setting him apart for a Nazirite vow, for being the Messiah, for being a priest, for being the one, all of those things that he's called to be. He's giving up his old life to be a new life, not because he's dying. Okay? When Elisha comes, Elisha's plowing. Elijah comes by and throws his mantle around him. Okay? And Elisha says, "Let me go say goodbye to my family." Elijah says, "Do you understand what I did to you? I took you and I gave you a new life. I took you from your old life." Elisha says, "Okay, I'll offer a sacrifice to God. I'll tell the guys working with me to go say goodbye to my parents, and I'll be with you. Because I no longer have that life." That was what a Nazirite did. He went and he said, "I'm going to serve God for X number of months or years," or in the case of Samuel, from before he was born. "I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to have my family." So the moment he's weaned, his mother takes him up there, and he sees his family once in a while again, once a year at least. Okay? But he never lives with his family again, because he doesn't have that life anymore. Jesus is coming to John, and he's saying, "It's time for me to take up the responsibility for the sacrifice. And so I can no longer be Mary and Joseph's son." He will say to Mary, you're not my mother." Okay? He'll address her as woman. He will address her as woman on the cross when he says to her, "Behold your son," and he points to his motions to his disciple, John. He acknowledges what he is as firstborn, but he says, I can't be your son anymore. I have to be this instead. So it's a whole new life. That's what's going on in John's baptism. Okay? And John then reports, "This is what I saw. I didn't see Mary and Joseph's son. I saw Jesus come up out of the water. I saw the Holy Spirit of God descend in the form of a dove and rest on him. And I heard the Father's voice say, "This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased." This is not the Jesus who just walked up to me and asked to be baptized. This is the new life that he's got to live, the new responsibilities that he has to live as our Redeemer.